learn a lot doing book videos, like how to balance a massive amount of books. Hey guys, my name is Yasmina and welcome back to my channel. In today's video I have another book haul for you guys, and this will be all of the books I purchased since my last book haul, which was all the way back in November, I'm pretty sure, so quite a few months ago. There's quite a lot of books though, so let's just go through it. There is also a lot of fantasy books, so I think this is a very fantasy-centric book haul, so I hope you guys are excited to see all of the new books that I've purchased and that I'm very excited to read. So let's get started. Alright, let's start with the big fat fantasy pile, and the first book in the pile is one that I'm very excited to finally have, and you guys were also very excited for me to finally have when I posted on Instagram that I received it, and that is Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson. So finally, the mass market paperback edition that I've been waiting for 2 years has finally come out, and I finally purchased it, and here it is. It is so thick. It is a brick. It is a brick. It's a thick boy. Thick boy. Thanks Daniel Green for making people slap books. Link in the description to Daniel Green. If you don't follow him already, you should. He's great. But look at this. Like, look at this. Seriously. Like, it's small, obviously, because it's a mass market paperback, and it has 1,300 pages, and they're like, it's like Bible, you know, Bible thin pages. Thick boy. Anyway, I'm really excited to finally have this, and I'm really gonna try to read this before the fourth book comes out, which actually has a title now. It's called Rhythms of War. I will put a picture up here. It doesn't have a final cover yet, but the title has been announced, and that comes out in November. But anyway, it's here, it's big, cool. The next book was actually sent to me by the author, so thank you very much. The author contacted me asking if I wanted to read her book, and honestly, it sounds right up my alley. You guys know that Shadow of the Fox series is one of my favorite fantasy series of all time now. I'm eagerly awaiting the third book, which comes out at the end of this month, or beginning of next month, and that is a fantasy about a kitsune, and that's exactly what this is. This is called The Lady in Red by Amber Cook. So yes, this is a Japanese-inspired fantasy novel about a kitsune, and that is all I need to know. All of that sounds right up my alley. I love this kind of stuff, you guys know, so I'm very excited to read it and let you guys know what I think. But yeah, I will of course leave links to all of the books I talk about today down in the description, so if this sounds like something that would interest you, find it down below, so go show it some support. Alright, next is another self-published novel, but this one wasn't sent to me. I just bought it because it's one of those books that I keep seeing everywhere. I know it's something that I'm gonna love, and that is Sufficiently Advanced Magic by Andrew Rowe. This is Arcane Ascension Book 1. This is also a big, thick boy. This sounds awesome, and everyone who has read it has loved it, so I'm so excited. It sounds like so much fun. Another cool fact, and I think this is unique in literature, this has a level system like in video games, so the character actually levels up as he gains more experience in his magic, and I think that sounds so cool and so much fun, and I cannot wait to dive into this. Next up is the book that the series everyone has been talking about recently, or well, maybe a bit less recently now. This is the book that was based on. That is, of course, The Witcher, or this is The Last Wish by... I don't know how to say his name, I'm really sorry. But I've been meaning to get to this series for a very long time. I played The Witcher 3 back when that came out, and it's one of my favorite games of all time. I completely adore that game and the world, and the music, and everything about it was fantastic. I also really enjoyed the show. Of course, I have seen it, but I just decided, okay, I should probably finally get to this now, because everyone's been reading it recently. And actually, these editions are becoming harder and harder to find. It was like sold out for a very long time because everyone was buying it. This is a collection of short stories that the first season of the show is based upon. If you've seen the show, let me know what you think. If you've read the series, let me know what you think. Next is a book I said I will probably never read, but things change. That is Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. I mentioned this in my top series I'll never read. I'll link it up here because it's been a long time since I made that video. But I mentioned this series back then because at the time a lot of people were saying that it just rehashes a lot of tropes in YA fantasy and like puts them all together, and you know, if you've read a lot of it, it's not very unique. It doesn't really bring anything new to the table, and while I still think that doesn't sound great, first of all, it was incredibly cheap on Book Depository one day. The whole series is reduced right now. So the other thing, I don't know about you guys, but like sometimes curiosity just takes the best of me, and it's like, you know what, I really want to make my own opinion. Even though I said I probably will never read it, maybe I will, and maybe I'll like it, who knows? And if I don't, that's fine too, but I think I'd just rather know. I'd rather give it a try and see. And if I don't, that's fine. It was very cheap, so it's not like I, you know, spent a lot of money on it to find out if I like it or not. But if you have read the series, do let me know what you think. I can't say I'm super excited to get to it, obviously, but I'm curious. I am running out of breath. Okay, next is Dreamer's Pool by Juliette Marillier. I've really been wanting to read this author for a very long time. All of her books sound awesome to me. It just sounds like the sort of fairy tale magical fantasy books and fantasy series that I know I'm gonna love. She actually has another series that I'm probably even more excited to get to. I should probably get that soon. That is inspired by Romanian folklore, and I think, you know, like, I have to read that. I just have to read that. I'm really excited to get to that, but until then, this series has been pretty popular. It's called the Blackthorn and Grimm series. Yeah, there is something about this author in forests and like magical forests, and that sounds right up my alley. I think it's inspired by Irish mythology, possibly. So yeah, she's just an author I've been meaning to get to for a very long time, and I'm very, very excited to read all of her books. She has a lot of them also, but I'm excited to get to all of them eventually. But I'll start with this one. Next, I have The City of Brass by S.A. I don't know how to say that. Chakraborty. This is a series that I've always been super interested in. It says, in the markets of 18th century Cairo, thieves, tricksters, con artists, and outcasts eke out a living, swindling rich nobles and foreign invaders alike. But alongside this new world, the old stories linger. Tales of jinn and spirits, of cities hidden among the swirling sands of the desert, full of enchantment, desire, and riches, where magic pours down every street, hanging in the air like dust. Many wish their lives could be filled with wonder, but not Nari. She knows the trades she uses to get by are just tricks and sleights of hand. There's nothing magical about her. She only wishes to one day leave Cairo, but as the saying goes, be careful what you wish for. The series has been getting a lot of praise from people who have read it, so I'm very that was a bookmark. I'm very excited to get to it. Laini Taylor says, dazzlingly magical and still utterly believable. Interesting. Next is a book that had another cover change. I've seen this book in like 3 different covers, and the one I ordered is not the one I got. I got a different edition, so I'm not sure if they changed them again recently, but anyway, this is An Amber in the Ashes by Salba Tahir. But this is another one of these fantasy series that I've been meaning to get to for a very, very long time. A lot of people who mainly just read adult epic fantasy and have read this really, really loved it. This is YA fantasy, but you know, that I never care about that. I read anything. I don't care if it's YA or not. I love YA fantasy. I love every kind of fantasy. But a lot of people say that this is really, really good. And Robin Hobb, one of my favorite authors, says, keeps one reading long after the lights should have been out. Now that is a great sign. Next up, we have Battle Mage by Stephen Orion. Why did I always think that was Ryan? It's Orion. Orion? Orion. It says, I can command storms, summon fire, and unmake stone. It's dangerous to meddle with things you don't understand. Magic and mayhem collide in this explosive epic fantasy from a major new talent. Another series that's very highly acclaimed, and apparently it is multiple perspectives, which I didn't know either, so it's a first in a series, and I'm very excited to get to it eventually. Like with everything. Then I have The Selection by Kira Cass. This is one of these books that again I've been meaning to get to for a very long time. Just something about this concept really appeals to me. This is basically like a magical The Bachelor kind of thing, a more romantic fantasy, but a lot of people really like the series and I've been meaning to get to it for a long time. It's pretty short, so I'm excited to get to it. Then I just want to quickly mention there's 3 fantasy books that I have that will be in my next video, because these are all from 2 Illumicrate boxes that I've unboxed before I filmed this video. But if you want to know what these are, stay tuned for next week's video, because I will do an unboxing of the 2 boxes. I just thought I should separate them into 2 videos because this video is already too long. You'll have to stay tuned for next week's video to find out what they are. But wait, there's more. The next pile is not fantasy, it's other things, but there's still some really exciting stuff in here, so let's move on to that. First, I have a non-fiction book. This is Life in the Middle Ages. Scenes from the Town and Countryside of Medieval England by Martin Whittock, a brief sort of history book on the Middle Ages. I bought this for research, for fantasy projects, and from what I understand it's kind of like an interview between different people, so you kind of get a glimpse of how life would have been for different people in different parts of society in medieval England, so of course very specific. Next I have a new release. This is Love Boat Taipei by Abigail Hing Wen. Something attracted me to this book whenever I first saw it mentioned on someone's channel, and I immediately picked it up. It's a contemporary novel. It says, "Where the party never stops. Whenever Wong's parents send her away for the summer, she's expecting to attend a strict educational program in Taiwan. Instead, she finds the infamous Love Boat, a free-for-all where hookups abound, adults turn a blind eye, and the nightlife runs non-stop. Will Love Boat give Ever the courage to pursue the future she dreams of, to become who she wants to be? One thing's for sure, this will be a summer she'll never forget." This sounds like a cool, maybe steamy YA contemporary novel that I'm excited to see how it plays out. Then I have a different sort of book. This is Diary of Anne Frank, The Diary of a Young Girl. I picked this up when I was recently in Amsterdam for a work trip, and I wanted to buy a new book, but I guess I wanted to buy something more significant to the area, and so I thought, I haven't read this book, and it's one of these books that I want to read at some point in my life, so I thought I'd pick it up. So yeah, I don't think I need to explain what this is about, but yes. Then another contemporary novel. This is We Are the Ants by Sean David Hutchinson. It says, "There are a few things Henry Denton knows and a few things he doesn't. Henry knows that his mom is struggling to keep the family together and coping by chain-smoking cigarettes. He knows that his older brother is a college dropout with a pregnant girlfriend. He knows that he is slowly losing his grandmother to Alzheimer's, and he knows that his boyfriend committed suicide last year. What Henry doesn't know is why the aliens chose to abduct him when he was 13, and he doesn't know why they continued to steal him from his bed and take him aboard their ship." It kind of goes on like that. I'm not going to read you the whole thing, but it just sounds like a really weird and maybe hard-hitting YA contemporary, so I'm super excited to read this. And the last 3 books in this pile are writing craft books that I picked up recently that I'm very excited to read and learn from. The first one is My Grammar and I, or Should That Be Me? Old School Ways to Sharpen Your English by Carolyn Taggart and Jay Wines. This is kind of cool. It's kind of like a funny look at English grammar, and obviously as a writer, stuff like this really interests me. Then we have Creating Character Arcs, the masterful author's guide to uniting story structure, plot, and character development by K.M. Wieland. I've read some of her books before, and I thought they were very useful. So this is all about how to create character arcs. And then the last one is Conflict and Suspense by James Scott Bell, another author I've read craft books from, and of course this focuses on how to write conflict and suspense. So I really hope that these books will be super useful, and of course I will review them once I've read them. I've read quite a few more craft books since I made my first writing craft book video, so I'll probably do a follow-up after I've read these. But yeah, that is everything. I have a huge pile of books on the floor right now. As usual, I am very excited to get to all of these eventually. Some of them I'll get to sooner than later, but you know, I just like to have a lot of options on my bookshelf, and they're all books I'm really interested in. So if you've read any of these, or if there's any that sound particularly interesting to you, please leave that in the comment section below. I'd love to talk to you about them. And otherwise, you'll find links to all of the books down in the description. And yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please remember to like and subscribe, and otherwise I'll see you next time with a new video. Bye!